Started off as a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and now...
That's right. We are live.
The ghost faced himself, Brandon Tanev.
This isn't like the start of last season when it looked like the Canucks were just a beer league team not playing defense at all. And just before Chris goes, no, I'm kidding, Chris. You can actually go now.
No, hold on.
Oh, we have to give more time for coming on late. So.
I still had. Hold on. All right. Chris, go, and then I got something else to say at the end.
So, an elf and a midget in 2 back-to-back games. He's definitely on a friendship tour for sure.
Saying, oh yeah, I'm okay with him being, the 6'7" defenseman. No, he is a AHL defenseman right now.
Look, Shonky, don't mind Devin, okay? We all struggle with Devin, so you know.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Shifts and Pucks podcast. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks, Twitch.com Shifts and Pucks. Subscribe wherever you get your audio. Click that like and follow button on the YouTubes or wherever as well as find us on the Area 51 Sports Network as we are live. In between Game 4 and Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final, as well as Day 2 of the Memorial Cup. It is June 21st, and we are still in hockey world. Is that weird to you? Hello, Chris.
Hey, Kev. Is it weird in a completely normal world and normal timelines? Maybe, by a little bit. But considering we're in the tail end of COVID,
Touch wood.
It is what it is. We're getting back to normal. The NHL season is going to be coming back at the regular time as it normally does in a non-pandemic world next season. So we're slowly getting back to normal, folks.
Yes. Where are you today? Are you...
I'm back in Revelstoke.
Okay. Well, yes. Okay.
In a different hotel this time, but I'm in Revelstoke.
In Revelstoke, yes. Sean, hello.
Hello, Kevin. How are you?
I'm good. We all have the same...
Well, close to
hats.
Sean and I have the same style. Kev has a different style than ours, but that's the thing. You can order our hats in different styles depending on your tastes.
Yes. Devin from Amped Advantage. And Devin, we miss you. Get your ass back on this podcast. Anyway.
Even if you have to run in late, damn it.
Yeah. But Devin has created some hats for us. My hat, I'll show you what's unique about my hat here as I show you my funny hair. I have a Flames Blasty on, as well as I like this Canucks logo. It's one of my, I have this one. This is probably my second favorite one for Canucks logo. So that's what I got. And the black hat, and I don't look terrible in it. So, I'm no Tinder Tyler, but hey, I'll. Can we use Tinder Tyler anymore? Tyler, we miss you too as well. By the way.
No, not anymore.
No, we can't. You can't go Tinder Tyler.
And yeah, I'll show off what Chris and mine look like. We have the same hat. We've got that logo as well, and then we've got Canucks on the other side. These ones are special. Yeah, as Kevin said, these ones Devin got it specially made for us. But you can definitely get Shifts and Pucks hats at the Area 51 Sports Network shop on their website. So if you want to sport our logo, we would love it, and you can go do that at the Area 51 Sports Network shop on their website.
Yes.
And I'll also show off the back part since we haven't talked about that yet. But we are not Sakaris and Price, but we are the Shifts and Puck podcast.
There we go. It looks. I like it. We like it. We're happy. Things are growing slowly but surely in the Shifts and Pucks world. As we've got some other things on the go. We'll get into the news. We got a lot to get into. So. Enough chitter chatter. Let's get at her. The NHL Awards were tonight. I thought they were tomorrow, but they were on the 21st. And really, it was the big awards. They've already announced Carey Price as the Masterson, and Daryl Sutter won the Jack Adams, and Lady Big went to Kyle Connor. But some of the big ones, Maurice Sider won the Calder Award, Igor Shesterkin won the Vezina, Cale Makar won the Norris. What was interesting is Roman Josi got more first place votes. Austin Matthews won the Hart. I don't think any of them were truly a surprise. I think it was down to Josi or Makar. I think you could flip a coin. That was the closest one. And I think everyone kind of thought that there was a lot of arguments for Noah and other people, but you couldn't argue over 60 goals for Austin Matthews. I think the surprise to me was Austin Matthews also took the 10 Lindsay, because I honestly thought that they would give that to Connor McDavid, and that went to Matthews. So I think that that's the one that I was most surprised at.
Yeah, I that and Makar as well. I think those two are right on par in terms of surprise for me. I thought maybe Josi would get it, but Makar is so good.
Like, was I expecting Josi to win? Maybe, but am I shocked Makar won instead? No, not after the season he had.
No, they were. I mean, and don't forget Roman Josi had a fantastic season too. It was 1.06 points a game. Like, it's a legitimate there were a legitimate argument for either or on that. So,
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the first season in McDavid's career he didn't get an end of season award?
Don't hold. You know what?
Hold on. No, he didn't win the Calder in his rookie season because of his travicle or whatever he broke in his shoulder.
Right.
But other than that, I think this might be the first season in his career where he doesn't have an end of season award.
Give me a couple seconds here. I can pull that up.
I'm sure Oilers fans are going to love that.
He did not win any awards in 1920 either.
Oh, okay.
He finished
in 2019, 2020. Because
yes.
I thought you were saying 1920, and I'm like, well, no, he wasn't alive. But 2019, 2020, yeah.
You could even argue his grandpa wasn't alive back in 1920.
Yes. He won the Hart, the Pearson/Lindsay, and the Art Ross in the 2016-17 season, as well as the Pearson/Lindsay and the Ross in the 17-18 season. Then he's had 8 in the 18-19 season and the 19-20 season. He did not win anything there, but he was an all-star end of season all-star in the 2018-19 season. He wasn't in the season after, and then so he won again.
So I guess the point and ribbing that I was going to do towards Oilers fans is a little moot now, but whatever. I tried.
He's probably going to get some votes for the Conn Smythe. That I wouldn't be surprised with.
McDavid?
Yeah.
Considering how dominant he was in the first two rounds, I see where Kevin's coming from. As far as where he'll end up in the Conn Smythe voting now, we'll see.
Yeah, I don't think.
No, you have to make it to the Cup final to be in that discussion. If anyone's doing that, they're throwing their vote away like someone did with Tuukka Rask this year.
Hey, by the way, can we applaud Eddie Lack? Eddie Lack voted Chris Tanev third on his Norris ballot. It's just nice Eddie Lack. Quinn Hughes got some votes. Thatcher Demko got some votes. Johnny Gaudreau finished fourth, I believe, in Hart Trophy. He got the All-Star. He got first All-Star nod. Just to quickly go through, Matthew Tkachuk got second All-Star nod. Markstrom finished second in Vezina. Just to go through all the Flames Canucks who got. Thatcher Demko got votes from Vezina. Got one vote for Vezina. So I lost the bet to Sean because Darcy Kemper didn't get a vote. We'll get to him in a second. And of course, and Lindholm finished second in the Selke. So
what category would Eddie Lack vote under? He's not a broadcaster.
Oh, that was more of a joke for Eddie Lack than anything.
Yeah, I was figuring as much. I'm pretty sure he actually doesn't get a vote. He's a realtor.
Why not? Realtors should vote. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there wasn't really any surprises. I mean, with that was nice, the standing ovation that Chris Snow got and his family. Thought it was nice that they gave the presentation to Red Hamilton and Natalia from the Kraken fan that noticed the red mark on his neck. I thought that was a nice touch. Keenan Thompson was okay. It was a nice award ceremony. I thought the best line that Keenan Thompson said was, "It's nice to see the Leafs win something in June." That was pretty funny. But yeah, that's the NHL awards. The most important award is coming. I think my favorite award is coming up because it is the Conn Smythe, and we'll get to the Stanley Cup final. So game 1 and 2 certainly looked like the Colorado Avalanche were on their way, but someone forgot to tell the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they came back with a storm of vengeance last night. Although they didn't get off to that great of a start, I didn't think. Colorado got off to the good start.
It was a bit of a slow burn for Tampa yesterday.
Yeah, and then they got the big save from Vasilevsky, and then they got the offside challenge. Speaking of pissing off Oiler fans, am I going to piss off Oiler fans in a little bit? Believe me. Oh, I'm coming for you. I am coming for you. But I guess maybe just your thoughts before I get into my statement here about what you've noticed from the Stanley Cup final. It hasn't met expectations yet because we've seen one good game, 2 blowouts, but even that one close game was all Avs. I think that this series is going to get better. That's my impression as this goes on.
I know I have a bit of a tendency for always kind of stealing lines from 32 Thoughts, but Friedman did say in the last episode, we haven't seen the best game of this series yet, and that's likely going to be game 4.
Yeah, I agree there. I think it's going to be, it should be a really good game because I still think the Avs know that if they win game 4, they can win it on home ice, and that would be huge.
Not only that, they get 2 chances to win on home ice.
They get 2 chances to win on home ice if they take it, but and they also know that if they lose, it's a brand new series. So I look at all that, and I think that game 4 is going to be barn burner. I haven't been able to watch too much of the games because on Wednesday when game 1 was, I was traveling out to BC, and on Saturday when game 2 was, I was out with Chris in Penticton, doing some checking out some breweries out there. But it's been I think we will see, I think you're right, Kev, and I think Friedman's right as well, that the series will get better, and we haven't seen the best game in this series yet. And you're starting to see the bad blood start to percolate there, and that always ends up being good for entertainment.
Probably the most bad blood I've seen in the series so far has been between Perry and Kemper.
Oh my gosh, yes, that's been something else. They've I don't know what's going on there, but they have been pushing and shoving. This might be the most nasty of series since 2011 of finals. I mean, not of other rounds, but finals. I don't think I remember this much pushing and shoving since 2011. And we already got a controversial hit with Taves hit on Kucherov. Some not liking it. I didn't think it was that. I didn't think that there should have been.
Kucherov got away with a check from behind before too.
Yes,
that's what makes that whole situation a little quite as spicy as it is.
Nobody, Nikita Kucherov, for all of his skill, that he has a lot of it. He has a lot of prick and rat in him. I think if he played if he played in Canada, there would be a lot of fans hating Nikita Kucherov on other fan bases. He's an underrated dirty player. Like, he's been known to do. He's been known to what do we call the he's been known to perform like some of the Italian soccer players have been known to perform on a World Cup stage or two, or a Euro Cup stage or two. And I wonder the thing that the two questions right now in this series, I guess from Colorado's perspective, Kemper hasn't been great. He hasn't had to be great in this entire playoff. And I think he didn't have a great night last night. And now the question is who you start. I would think you go with Kemper, and if he doesn't get it done, maybe you think of Francouz in game 5, but I think you're trying to run as much with Kemper as you can.
Oh yeah, you're definitely starting Kemper next game. Like last night was the first time he's truly been tested and chased out of the net, other than maybe game 1 versus Oilers.
Yeah, Kemper is your starter. You're going with him.
Yeah.
I think when you start, if you have to do that. Like if you start second guessing, I think that's when you get into trouble.
Yeah, I agree. The other problem, you have two other themes. Actually, the other one I was thinking about here. The second theme in this is Tampa's penalty kill is not very good. Like this is Colorado's power play. Like I picked Tampa. I'm the only one I think that picked Tampa. I don't know who Tyler picked. But I think out of all of us, I'm the only one that picked Tampa. My two concerns right now is they are unable to kill a penalty to save their life. It's Colorado's 6-11 on the power play, and they're moving that puck really well. Like it is all Colorado on that for sure. That's been really impressive. We'll get to one of the reasons why in a moment. That's a tease. And just my other concern with Tampa, Braden Point not healthy. I don't think Nikita Kucherov's super healthy. The injury bug looks like it's really wearing on Tampa Bay. So those are my two big concerns.
Yeah, I believe you were the only one who picked Tampa because I think both Devin and Tyler said in our group chat that they had picked Colorado. So you're alone on that island, Kev.
I've been alone before.
Oh, by the way, we figured out who voted 5th place for Chris Tanev.
Who was that?
Thomas Drance.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. But yeah, get back to the Cup final. Yeah, it's going to be if Tampa can't stop the power play of the Avs, it's going to be tough for them to win. That's a very Captain Obvious statement.
Yeah, no, it's yeah. Like they're just Colorado is so skilled on so many levels, and this started. I'm going to precursor what this all started. Sea of Red Central, well-known Flames tweeter, covers live tweets all the games. I think he was kind of doing this to piss some people off, but he tweeted Makar, and then the alligator sign McDavid. And Oiler fans got mad. So I put that out as a Shifts and Pucks poll. Who's better, Makar or McDavid? And Oiler fans took to it very well, as you know,
as they tend to do.
But I'm going to say this right into your face, okay? Cale Makar is the best hockey player in the world right now. Period. End of story. I don't care how much you tweet. I don't care how much you vote. I don't care how much you tell me to delete my account. I don't care how much you want to complain about the team that Makar is on and the team that McDavid is on. Cale Makar is playing at a level that we haven't seen in years from a defensive
Bobby
position.
Orr. I'm going to go that far and say that.
I wouldn't go that far, but I was going to say Nicholas Lidstrom. He is
dominant. Offensively, we haven't seen someone be as dynamic as Cale Makar is since Orr. Lidstrom,
which is more so what I was getting at.
Yeah, Lidstrom is man. He was just so steady and so good defensively that he was a complete. They're completely different players, even though they play the same position.
Yeah.
Lidstrom is more defensive minded and more well rounded. but you can't deny how offensively talented Cale Makar is.
But it's underrated. His physicality is underrated. Like how physical and how strong he is so it's underrated. He is so when he's on the ice, he's in complete control of the game. That's how that looks. I don't want to say Bobby Orr because I think that's a lot to ask about a guy that's 21 years old. Like to me, it's the best defense I've seen since Nicholas Lidstrom. And I know that they're different. I'm not saying that they're the same player, but I haven't seen this type of I'm in control of the game every time I'm on the ice since Nicholas Lidstrom from Vancouver defenseman. And we have a 2-time Norris Trophy defenseman that's on the ice for Tampa Bay named Victor Hedman, and Makar is playing better than that. But here's the thing, like, if you want some evidence, let's just go back to the conference final and what Cale Makar did one-on-one with Connor McDavid, and look those numbers up, because Makar dominated on every single level. And don't tell me about the teams. I don't give a shit about the teams. Of course, Colorado is better than Edmonton. Blame your general manager. Blame your ownership. Blame your history. But you're not watching the game well enough. And no one by the way, on any of Sea of Red Centrals or any of Shifts and Pucks, any Oiler fan that has been angry has not given a single shred of evidence to tell me that Connor McDavid is better than Cale Makar. Cale Makar is playing right now in the final, and Cale Makar is playing the best hockey in the world. It doesn't diminish what Connor McDavid has done. Connor McDavid is a fantastic player, but right now, Cale Makar is the best hockey player in the world.
When you're as offensively dynamic as Makar has been, typically it's at the expense of your own defensive game, and he's proven that he is not giving up the defense side of his game to do the offense. Like, Carlson wasn't able to do this. Burns wasn't able to do this when they were at their best. Makar is blowing every other modern-day defenseman out of the water as far as being able to be this dynamic while also still being, decent on the defensive side as well.
Yeah. It's like I get it from Oiler fans' perspective because you have a lot of love and respect, but I don't think anybody here is saying that Connor McDavid all of a sudden turned into a horrible player. I think we just want to appreciate the fact that there is a great hockey player in our presence named Cale Makar, and he stepped his game up one notch. So is Connor McDavid. We've got a lot right now. This is probably overall the most skill we have seen in hockey in quite some time, and I think we should embrace it and enjoy it, not be offended by the fact that we think one player is better than another. It's, to me, that's ridiculous. And the other thing that's ridiculous to me is we just underappreciate defensemen. We keep thinking just because a forward scores all these points, well, yeah, obviously he's better. We're not watching it's like, God love you, James Cebulski. This is like the Trevor Zegras Moritz Seider argument. Yes, Zegras scored a bunch of highlight reel goals and he's lacrossed his way into our hearts, and he's a phenomenal talent. But Moritz Seider dominated the game as a rookie and is hands down the Calder Trophy winner. Like, it's, style is great, but defense, I've said this before, defense is a skill and we don't appreciate it enough.
I will gladly give Zegras the highlight of the year award, but one highlight or several highlights does not a Calder Trophy make.
Yeah. And in the day and age of all these stats, I have yet to see a stat that really jumps out to me as something that measures defense properly. So it's so tough. You have to use everything to evaluate, whether it's stats and eye tests and everything to evaluate defense. So it's such a, which is why I appreciate it so much. And I think it is, which is why I think I can't disagree with you, Kev. Disagree with you a lot of the time. I spent today finding the clip of your NHL Award Winners and laughing at my response to your pick for the Vezina. But I think you're bang on here there, Kev. I think Makar is the best player in the world right now.
And again, Oiler fans, be bad. I don't care. I'm just stating my fact. I'm stating my truth. Connor McDavid is phenomenal. Sean, you went through those awards. Who did I have for the Hart?
You had McDavid.
I did. So I'm not slagging on him. Yeah. So
no, he's a very, very close second right now. But just the way Cale Makar can affect the game offensively and defensively right now, there's no one better. Yeah. And his skating is. I remember before the Colorado Edmonton series, and Kevin came out with one of his lukewarm hot takes, saying that McKinnon's skating is just as good as McDavid's. And I think I can't remember who said it. It might have been me. But it was like if you're gonna make a little bit more of a hot take, even then I thought it was a little lukewarm. But to throw Makar in there for skating, and I think he proved that in that series specifically.
Yep. Not much else. I don't know what else to say about the Stanley Cup. It's percolating. I think when we next gather, I think it'll be a lot more fun. I predict it's going to be over. I'm going to still stick with 7 because I'm stubborn that way. By the way, I'm on 3 people. I well deserved by Steyer. Still looking forward to watching Z next season. Yeah. I want to see Zegras in the Olympics. Or whatever this World Cup or whatever this happens. That would be great.
Next year, the Ducks are going to be fun to watch with Zegras up the middle as well as Mason McTavish.
Yeah. One guy to watch a Memorial Cup. Mason McTavish is the best player in the Memorial Cup, and I think I just discovered the second best player.
I would argue he's the best player not currently playing in the NHL. And that's like the only name that I might take away that statement from is maybe Kuzmenko, who, by the way, Canucks got to sign, but we'll get to that later.
I would think Owen Power, might be the other one.
He got to play a little bit in this season though, Kev. So
that's fair.
But technically, McTavish started the season with the Ducks too. So
yeah, they both played a couple of games at the start of the season. I was talking about currently not playing in the NHL.
No, Power played at the end of the season.
Touche. Yes, true. But my point is, they each got to only play a handful, so they clearly didn't play all of this season. So that was more so the statement I was trying to get at.
Yeah. No, I got what you're saying there. Just one other name to watch: Maverick Bork. I watch for what Derek, friend of the show, Derek Neumeyer, says about him. And that Dallas team in a couple of years. We'll touch on that in a minute. But
any relation to the Bork family that we know and love?
No.
No.
Okay. Had to ask.
But you're right. Let's get into it. So the Andrei Kuzmenko did choose the Vancouver Canucks. He spent the weekend here. All kinds of rumors and reports here that Alvin and Bruce Boudreau took a drive down 4.5 hours to pick him up. It sounds like the rumors of what happened in Edmonton was either I don't know what the truth is here, but either A, they took him to Joey's, or they took him to Wendy's, or
I heard Earl's.
Maybe whatever restaurant it is. Apparently, it didn't impress Oiler fans. But Andrei Kuzmenko signed with the Vancouver Canucks, spurning the Edmonton Oilers. A tough week in Edmonton with being spurned by Vancouver because the World Cup went with Vancouver over Edmonton in soccer. That, by the way, just on a side note, we do love a bit of soccer here, but I do think it's unfortunate that Edmonton did not get a game for the World Cup. I do think that that's sad, but
you can't blame the Oilers for that. You can thank Kenny and his demands for that.
That is true.
So why don't Oiler fans blame Kenny for this Kuzmenko signing? Like, why not? Just for the hell of it. It's probably Kenny. Kenny was there. Yeah. Anyway, Kuzmenko is joined the Vancouver Canucks. Let me reword this. He is going to sign a contract with the Vancouver Canucks. Yes. He intends to sign a contract with the Vancouver Canucks. He cannot sign until July 13th. That's the start of free agency.
So he posts on Instagram with a fake?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, he did. Yes.
Well, the picture was real. It was staged.
Yeah. That was my horrible attempt at acting.
But we've talked a lot about the dartboard sort of picking up finding different ways to get players. We've had a few conversations about that. And this is one of those. This is probably the most high impact of Andrei Kuzmenko. When I say high impact, I want to be careful what we're talking about here. We're talking about a guy that's probably going to have a chance to play in the top 9, but he probably will still need some work. Like I know that there were texts out there saying that he, look out. What does this mean for all the big players? I think this means nothing. I don't
think this changes anything in terms of what game plan was for the Canucks going into this offseason.
Other than maybe bumping Podkolzin from the top 6 down to the third line. That is probably the only impact that it might have.
Even then, I think it's just in terms of the game plan, in terms of build what they want to do this offseason, I don't think it changes anything. I think it just adds another option for them.
Mm-hmm. It creates competition. I think that's one of the things that I think I would suspect. We haven't heard those specific words, but it's something that I've been thinking a lot about. I think there needs to be more competition for spots in training camp.
It'll definitely make Pearson and Garland look over their shoulder. That's for sure.
If either of them are back.
Yeah, I am more and more Garland. I'm not so certain. I'm more certain. I feel like he'll be back. Pearson, I'm not sure.
I don't know to the extent of how much of an overhaul there's going to be this offseason. I'm basically just going with the names that are currently on the roster, and if they change, they change. Is how I'm kind of treating it.
Yeah, the one player I think this should be a wake up call to is Niels Höglander, because no matter what they do, I think they will, whether they trade away JT Miller, Besser, Garland, Pearson, whatever. I think they're still going to try and find a way to keep this depth that they now have up front, and it's going to create that, as Kevin said, competition, and someone like a Niels Höglander who was a bit snake bitten this past season, kind of a bit of a sophomore slump. I think Kevin talked a lot about whether or not he felt that Gaudreau liked Höglander. I think he does. I think he was just frustrated with the lack of production from Höglander, even though he was getting his opportunities. And if Höglander can get the opportunities that he had this past season and cash in on them, he'll be a coach's favorite.
Yeah, but hopefully his sophomore slump is out of the way.
He needs to do that. So I think for me, when I look at that, is the one player I look at that should be maybe looking over their shoulder is Niels Höglander.
Yeah, I agree. It's just it's depth and in competition. That's, I think, what to me we're all over the place. Like except goal, I think you're comfortable with Demko, and then your top 2. You mean you're not finding competition for Hughes, but getting competition to make sure not. Because I don't want to say that there was a sense of entitlement, but there certainly probably was a sense of comfort. And just remember how Benning and Green were talking. Well, we got Podkolzin can. We think that, like, just bring in more competition that allows players to get better. Like,
it's competition and making sure that everyone's driving to get better. And it's not that the Canucks weren't doing that. They just weren't doing it at the level that Alvin and Rutherford want. So I think if we're gonna read into the country club comment, or I don't even like. I really need to find that clip where Kyprios talked about that, because I think that might have been more him putting words in their mouths as
Him
opposed
speculating?
to anything else. I don't even say speculating. I think he probably did get the vibe that they want to up the work rate and work ethic of this team, but that doesn't mean that they feel like it's a country it's a country club atmosphere.
Yeah, what I meant by speculating is that he didn't hear those exact words. He basically put it in their mouths on their behalf.
Yeah, I think he heard that they do want to up the work rate and work ethic of this team, and then he went full on. He just elevated the wording to be a little more. He knew it would get out and become a
pulled us the Karis and went a little bit on the drama and knew it would get clicks.
Yes.
It was wording. Certainly the wording was content creatory for sure. I don't know. I don't necessarily feel that that's a fair word either. I don't feel that a country club atmosphere is fair. But I do think that this team needs to raise the level of competition. Let's use the Colorado Avalanche as an example. There have been times they scratched Andre Burakovsky from their lineup. Nazem Kadri isn't playing in this series yet. Logan O'Connor, who I think is a hell of a player, has been in and out of lineups. There's competition there. Like, you're competing for a spot there, and they're 2 wins away from a Stanley Cup. So there's nothing wrong with competition. I think it's important to have it, and it's important to continue to raise the level of it. And if you think Colorado's your mono franchise that everybody is, they're creating competition. That's what Vancouver needs to do.
And while we're still on the Kuzmenko thing, I just want to bring up one kind of cool thought that popped into my head today. This will be the first time a Canucks player has worn 96 since Pavel Bure.
That's incorrect.
I think you're right.
Adam Gaudreau wore it.
Yep.
For how many games? Because that wasn't his regular number.
He switched. He wore it. I know that. I don't know how.
But
for how long? But the other thing is,
I feel like it was only a handful of games at best. What I'm going more so at is the fact that because that is his birth year, I imagine that Kuzmenko is likely to wear that long term if he can.
Maybe.
I have an unpopular
photo on Instagram.
I have an unpopular.
I know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure until I see it on the ice. We'll see.
I have an unpopular opinion, maybe, but I don't think that Kuzmenko should get a flashy number.
What?
I'm not sure 96 is because of Bure. He wants to wear 96 because it's his birth year.
Okay. I'm not going to argue too much.
I mean,
about numbers.
Are you going to fault that for any other player who's done that in the past decade?
It was Adam Gaudreau wore 96 in the 2020 last season, not this one, but the season before, because Jordy Ben came in.
I don't have a huge issue with numbers, but
that's where I was like, what? I think we make too much of an issue. It's a number. Calling what's more flashy when you can think about it. You got number 9 is one of the has probably the most. 9 and 4 are both numbers that have multiple Hall of Fame.
I'll also
players.
throw 19 in there.
19, 7. Are they? Why is 96 more flashy than them? And I'm not trying to create a discussion here. It's more of a rhetorical question. It's a number. Like, I don't really care anymore about what the number is.
The reason why I brought it up in the first place was just because I thought it was a cool, like, Russia connection sort of, like, we haven't seen a Russian player. I guess I'll specify that. We haven't seen a Russian player wear it since Bure.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I would be more I would take more offense if it was 99, obviously. But it's
unless retired league wide, that's not even possible.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, he obviously can. I don't truly care that much what number he wears. I just care about the production on the ice. I think that's more concerning to me. I'm not super worried about that, but there is a school of thought that you got to earn the number that you have out there. Brian Burke was a big proponent of that. He was like, you can't you're not getting high numbers until you actually earn it. So there's some that think that way. I don't really care one way or the other. Although I said I did. Well, that's good.
As much as I love Berkey, there's things I disagree with him on, and a number is a number. Honestly, the only thing to do with numbers that I want to get rid of, stop using them when you're talking about players. Use the players' names, please. Don't tweet out number 62 is doing something good today. I'm like, no, the majority of fans cannot remember the majority of players' numbers.
To be fair, though, the one reason some people do that is because character, Twitter has a 250 character limit. No, it's not that big of a deal. I use names. Like, I specifically said Matthew Tkachuk's name when I was calling him out on his performance against the Oilers. Yeah. So, yeah.
No, I just seen other like a lot of people use it, and I can bear, like, there's some times where I'm like, like, I literally was like, what numbers was JT Miller again? Like, I just can't remember that sometimes. And I if you're reading a tweet and you have to look something up, I don't think that unless it's like that. Yeah, I figured that one out there, Chris. It took me a few minutes, but I got there. But yeah, I'll get off my John Garrett soapbox, and then we can move on from now.
I hear you on that. But let's, this is the time of year where sort of there's we talked about this when last we were on. We talked about Flame trade targets and the name Jesse PRV. We had the discussion about Jesse PRV being a Flame. I thought, let's spend a little bit of time doing some Canuck trade targets here. And Canuck Nation does it. The radio station does it. Why can't we do it? We're smart enough. Gosh darn it. And so the first name that came out, of course, Elliot Friedman tweeted this yesterday. Ethan Bear has been granted permission to seek out other teams because he's not close on a contract with Carolina. It's sort of their style, though. If they don't feel that they're going to be able to get close on a contract, they give the player a chance to seek out something, and if they can work it out, they will. This is Ethan.
Carolina is like the hipster of the NHL world. They're like, oh, everyone else is supposed to do it this way. We'll do it that way.
Well, no, I think this happens more than people realize. There's a lot of times where player agents are able to go out and try and find fits for players, even when they're under contract or looking for trade opportunities there. I think it's just becoming more well known.
The agents were when Louis Eriksson was a Canuck, the agent was all over trying to get Eriksson traded. He was all over that. I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure Benning said that they gave him permission to go out and try and find it.
Yeah. Yeah. No takers. He was even tough to trade on EA NHL, by the way. Anyway. No one would take him. Ethan Bear is an interesting guy. He was in Edmonton. I feel like I'm just building my feud with Oiler fans now. But he got a very rough ride by some Oiler fans and ended up having to be traded to Carolina for Warren Fogle. I like him. I think I've always thought he is I mean, I don't think he's at his high level yet. I think he's getting there. I think he continuously needs to improve. Was in and out of Carolina's lineup. I think that this is a guy that Vancouver should have a look at. I think he would fit on the right side. I mean, another guy that I am 72% certain that Tyler Myers is not back next year.
It's quite the number choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's more than 2/3, but it's not quite 3/4.
I mean, if you're going to go in that range, Kev, pick 69. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I know, but I'm going to stand with my 72. I'm certain. Anyway, I don't think Tyler Myers is coming back. I think even if you are bringing Tyler Myers back, you have to improve that defense. Has to be a priority, and I think Ethan Bear is a good skater, good puck handler. I'm not going to say he's going to pop. That's not what I say. Next year. But I do think that there's growth, and I think that this is a guy that Vancouver should look at. The only thing that I am concerned about, my concern here with Ethan Bear, is I don't know how much he wants. And I wonder if he might price himself out of situations. I hope he doesn't.
I mean, I think it'd be tough for him to get much.
I mean, like maybe he's pricing himself out of Carolina, but he's just trying to get a fair shake. I know it's a hard cap, and I know it's only going up by $1 million, but yeah, he has to ride that fine line of like get his worth, but at the same time also be cognizant of the fact that this is a hard salary cap, and a lot of teams are pretty cap strapped.
The only time he's played, like, how many games were in the bubble season? Not the 1920, but last season.
56.
Yeah. 56. So he played 43 out of 56 games with Edmonton that season. He only played 58 games this year.
By injury or scratch?
He was in and out.
He was in and out.
Yeah. I just really, I don't know what he can get contract wise. It's not going to be long term unless he signs for basically peanuts, and he'd be stupid to do that. I don't see him doing that. I think part of why there's an issue in Carolina is I think he's looking for an opportunity to be in the lineup every day. And he'd have that opportunity in Vancouver. I like him as a player. I think he still has one or two levels to get that he hasn't reached yet. He'll be 25 in 5 days. So maybe he can take that next step in the next season or two. But yeah, I think he's one of those guys who's a bit of a gamble, especially with what's the acquisition cost and what's his contract going to look like.
Yeah. But I thought, I think it'd be a guy, yeah, wouldn't hurt. I think that I think the Vancouver organization would be, I feel like this would be a good place for him. I think he would feel at home in Vancouver. I see it. My only other question with Carolina is, what's the plan with Tony DeAngelo? Are they planning to re-sign him?
Oh, they'll re-sign him, yes. It sounds like Jake Gardiner will be back, or at least attempting to come back next season as well. So they've got Carolina has, I think, 5 defensemen. They've got 5 quote unquote. I would say 4 NHL defensemen signed for next season, with Slavin, Shea, Pesci, and Gardner, if Gardner is healthy and can play at the NHL level. We also got former Canuck Jalen Chatfield under contract for 2 more seasons. Bear and D'Angelo are both RFAs with Arbrights, and they still have Ian Cole and Brendan Smith as options to bring back. I'm not. So I
did the Canucks let Chatfield walk?
Yes.
Okay, thought so.
Yeah, it's
he's a serviceable sort of 7, 8, 9 defenseman.
Yeah.
Chatfield or Bear?
Chatfield.
Okay.
And that's literally what he is.
I feel like that's his ceiling, whereas Bear can definitely be I feel like, I'll admit I don't know as much about him as probably you guys do, but my feeling is like Bear could be like a third, fourth guy at his peak, at his best.
Yes, I think I have a similar idea there. I think he could be a second pair guy when he.
Yeah, that's my thinking too.
When he gets there.
This was a guy that probably the Oilers, if they were as patient with him as they wanted, the Oilers wanted to be with Jesse Puljujarvi, he probably would have taken a good step this year. But that was their choice. So I don't know. I don't think the acquisition cost would be that high. So that's, I think, the benefit. I don't think you'd have to give that much to get Ethan Bear, but I think that's a guy that I think should be looked at.
I mean, the Oilers oilered and put offensive numbers over defensive depth.
Well,
Fogel's a solid player, and I think that was a trade that was a saw-off on either side. I don't think it was a win-win trade because I don't think either team, quote-unquote, won the trade, but I think it was a saw-off for both teams in that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And also, I think just remember the other thing with Ethan Bear is he dealt with, after that Winnipeg series, he dealt with a lot of racist comments. And I partially think it was, we needed to get him out of there for his own mental health. And so I think that was part of that as well. But
you know how Vancouver has a decently, at least the Canucks organization has a good relationship with the indigenous culture on the West Coast. So he'd at least feel at home in that regard if he landed in Vancouver.
Yeah. Which leads me to my second one. And this may be a little bit out of the box, but I'm going to put it out there. And I'm going to preface this by saying that the Nashville Predators have a new minority owner named Bill Haslam. And don't know what the Board of Governors are going to do about this, but he is a Republican governor that voted specifically against gay marriage in Tennessee. And Luke Prokop, of course, is the first openly gay player playing hockey, announced that last summer, is a draft pick of the Nashville Predators. And I'm not saying that there is... I don't think that the Predators should move on this guy because I think there's a lot here from the Nashville side that I think is very complicated that we don't have to get into. But I also think that this is a guy just from a player development, just looking at this guy, he's come a long way. When I watch Luke Prokop, I am a fan of what he potentially is going to become. I think he's a great skater. I think he's a good puck handler. I think his game is getting better. I think he's showing a lot of personality on the ice. Just very comfortable. And I know that Nashville supports him, but I do think that the Vancouver Canucks should pick up whatever device that we use in the year 2022 and see what they can do about trying to find him. I think he would be a great ad. I actually think this may be a little bit more of a hot take than I usually have a hot take, but this is a guy that I could see pairing in a couple of years with Quinn Hughes, and that would be a good pairing. A Luke Prokop Quinn Hughes pairing could be a pairing that we would enjoy in Vancouver.
And Kevin, the device that you're referencing, it's a smartphone.
Well, so do they not? Yeah, I know, but do they not use like do they text though? That's what my point is. What I
You don't know if they text or if they have a Slack group or if it's a Twitter DM or a Facebook Messenger group chat.
Yeah, that's why
we don't know what they use, but I guarantee it's via a smartphone.
WhatsApp, what are they? Whatever they do, but I think that they should find a way. I think Luke Prokop should be a guy that the Canucks think about. I think that
I just look at that, and if you take all that out, and I think it's hard to do that, but if you just look at hockey, I don't know why Nashville would even want to remotely look at that. But I've seen crazier things happen. The other thing is they've got Yossi Ekholm signed for long-term, and they're 32. You've got Duchesne, he's 31, signed long-term. Johansson's 29, signed long-term. Well, 3 years. Mikael Granlund's 30, signed for 3 years. Colton Sisson's 28, signed for 4.
So what you're getting at is they have an aging core.
They have an aging core, so I wonder if, and on the right side, they've got Philip Myers, who's been underwhelming for what the expectations were. Dante Fabro's solid. I think he's actually one of the more underrated defensemen in the league. But other than that, on the right side, they just signed Jeremy Lauzon to a new deal, but he's a left shot that plays the right side. If they want to go all in and they sign Philip Forsberg to a deal, and they kind of want to go see what they can do in the next 2-3 years, I wonder if they might use a Luke Prokop to add an NHL ready piece now. And
yeah, after the season he's had with the Oil Kings, yeah, you want to probably promote him to the NHL next season.
Well, I wouldn't. Again, defense is so tough. I wouldn't want to rush him. Like, it's not like he's.
Yeah, I'm not saying rush him. I'm just saying, like, if he's showing that he's ready and if he's at a championship level at the level under the NHL, then yeah, maybe it might be time for that promotion. Is kind of what I was trying to get at.
And the way I look at that is like, are you? Maybe people will laugh at me for this. But maybe if they do look at that, maybe it is a Tyler Myers trade there. Myers only has 2 years left at $6 million. It's not his contract's not onerous anymore, and he is a top 4 defenseman.
Yeah, and it's not like we're trying to trade him at a deficit. He probably had his best season this past season in like his past 5 years.
And it's not outside of Forsberg. Outside of Forsberg, the Predators don't have anyone really of note to sign this offseason. Luke Kunin, Matt Luff, Yakov Trenin are all RFAs with arb rights.
But no big names, no big fish.
No big names, right? So I wouldn't. If you take all that out, Kev, I still think there might be a hockey trade or hockey argument to have that, but it'd be tough because he's a 6'4" right shot defenseman who can skate.
Yeah, I'm not saying that this is an easy trade to make, but I also don't know. I think it's a situation to keep an eye on in Nashville as well, just because of the political climate there. I hope that more people speak out about what's going on in Nashville and who they're bringing in, and how in a world where we're trying to ask for more inclusivity in hockey, and we're saying hockey's for everyone. Like it's that's maybe for another podcast, but I think the whole situation involving Luke Prokop, it doesn't hurt to use the device and see what's going on.
If they move on him for that reason, it's a shame and is shameful in my mind.
Yep.
But overall, if the Canucks can take advantage of that and get a good player, I won't complain about it.
And he may not be NHL ready next year. I think he might need another season or two in the A. It's possible.
I think he does, honestly, but it's still you still need shots, and the right side of the defense is something that Canucks need to definitely look at, and if you're able to get him.
But hey, if he ends up on the Canucks and he goes down to Abbey, then that gives Rathbone the instant promotion because that bumps him up in the slot.
That's on the other side, right? Like Prokop's a right-handed right side defenseman. What happens with Rathbone is going to be very interesting because do you want to have all your left side defensemen being just puck movers? Or do you want to have a more of do you want to be able to switch him? There's talk that they might want to move OEL to the right side. What happens with Tucker Poolman's very interesting. Is he healthy? Is he going to be another, or will he be an LTIR guy because of his head issues? What happens with Tyler Myers is huge. Well, he's huge, so it will be huge.
And yeah, you're talking about like a 6'4" guy that can skate. I'm like, well, the Canucks, if it's Sean's offer, is offering a 6'7" guy who can skate.
Cat Friendly has him listed as 6'8".
There you go.
But
4 more inches in Prokop.
But I look at that and I just think it. I think there might be an argument, but I think it. Yeah, if I'm Nashville from a pure hockey standpoint, I don't know why you would give him up.
I know that that's why I said it was a bit of a stretch, because I know, but it's a situation and I would keep my eye on. And I do think Vancouver, the way that they have changed that management structure, it might be a good place for him. And I could see him being a really good ambassador in Abbotsford. And I could even see you could put I know that everyone wants Rathbone up next year. I think one more, it wouldn't hurt one more year of Rathbone in Abbotsford. And if you
that's where I'm at too.
Yeah. If you put a Rathbone Prokop pairing together, I think that would be a good pairing.
Oh, that could be a very good pairing for the Abbey Canucks. Yeah. And when they come to Calgary, I will go watch.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna go watch anyways. But
heck, I might even. Well, I suppose you could say that I could just watch something here in Kelowna. But what I'm trying to say is, I would be willing to go to Calgary to watch that game.
I mean, is it what's easier for you to get to if you're? It depends on where you are in the province, there, Chris. But
true,
you and the time of year.
Yeah.
But my point is, I'm willing to travel for if that's what we're talking about. I'd be willing to travel to watch that.
The other name I'm just going to toss, I didn't put it in the agenda, but I'm just going to toss Jonas Siegenthaler. That name has come up, I think, in a few trade targets.
On the Devils, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he might. And then it's gonna be tough to pry him away from the Devils. He's one of their. He's an underrated defensive beast who I think you would build around in Jersey as opposed to trading him away. I'd love it, but I'm looking at that and I don't. With the Devils, they've got. Yeah, I honestly, I think Ty Smith would be traded more before Jonas Siegenthaler.
I could see that. I just tossed that name out there.
Yeah. I love it. He's a left shot 25-year-old. Left shot defenseman, 6'3". He would be that difference from OEL and Hughes on that left side. I think if he is available, I think the Canucks should be all over that, but I don't think he will be, honestly.
The Devils need defense, I think. Like I'm not saying they're
exactly, which is why I'm like, why would they move him? He's one of their best he was one of their best defensive defensemen. They've got Dougie Hamilton, who's more of an offensive guy. Damon Severson's an all-round guy, but a little bit more offensive. Ryan Graves is a very good defensive defenseman. But they have PK Subban off the books this season, but they definitely need to be better defensively, and I think that Graves and Siegenthaler can be the stalwarts there as opposed to moving him.
I don't want to go down a rabbit hole with this question, but you bring his name up kind of makes me curious, and I want to ask this. Do we see PK Subban retire early and go right into media? Because he's kind of already leaning that way, it seems.
33 years old. I wouldn't call that early, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, like earlier for his talent level. And yes, he's dropped off significantly since his days in Montreal. I'll admit that. But I think a lot of people in the league still look on that name still pretty highly.
I think they do, but I don't see him. I think if he doesn't get an offer from a contender, and I think he would take a very low money deal to play for a contender to try
like a 1 year, $1 million style deal.
If he doesn't get an offer from that, I wouldn't be surprised if he does. That's literally the one thing he hasn't done.
True.
Like he was with the Preds and got to the Cup final in 2017. But he hasn't won it. I wouldn't as much of a. It's the best way to say this. As much of a media darling as he can be, I still think there's some there's definitely some competitiveness in him. I definitely think he would, if he could get it on to play a 5-6-7 role on a contender, I think he would do it.
I mean, I'm assuming Manson is on an expiring contract. Can you see Colorado maybe taking a chance on him next season?
No.
Okay, I was just throwing the question out.
I do think that I think teams will inquire about him, but I don't think it will be Colorado. You still have Samuel Girard. Samuel Girard is injured. Like, just again, to go back to that Avalanche depth, I think there are teams that would be interested in him. I agree with Sean. I still think he's got a couple more years left there before he comes into media. I mean, the only thing is if someone the only way I could possibly see it is if Rick Tocchet gets one of the 5 remaining jobs. I don't think Rick Tocchet's going to, because I think CTNT'd making a run for him, because I think he'd be a great fit there. But other than that, I think he would get more money playing hockey than media at this point.
Fair.
But it is a good question. I think there are places that would, I think Toronto. I think Toronto would be a good place for him.
Maybe.
Well, if you get him at 1, if he does what Gio did, wouldn't hurt.
Maybe. I don't know. Toronto's got work to do on that blue line for sure. And they've got work to do to clear up cap space and roster spots first before they would entertain that.
Yeah.
But like I said, I didn't mean for this to be a rabbit hole. We should probably get on to other topics.
No, it's fair. It's fair. I mean, it's That's a podcast, right? I mean, rabbit holes happen.
Yeah.
Sorry, producer Heidi. Any other trade targets with Canucks before we move on to a big talking point, I think?
I mean, unless Sean has a name that he wants to throw out there, I don't have any on the top of my head.
I don't have anyone off the top of my head. I think the big there was talk that maybe not trade targets, but the trade talk is more JT Miller talk. Washington with Backstrom's injury are going to be looking for a number one center, and there are some younger players that are definitely intriguing out of Washington. Whether or not they're able to put together a package that may be competitive with maybe the Rangers or another team is up for debate. But Miller to Washington it could be intriguing.
Fair enough. Okay, well we're going to touch on the Flames here for a moment. Of course, there's some waiting games here, and of course the big waiting game right now is Johnny Gaudreau. Everything is indicating at this particular point that Gaudreau is aware of the Flames' position. Gaudreau is making a decision, and I mean there's been some funny, sources indicate out there. I think one of them is Trust Me Bro. I think is Trust Me Bro. NHL Insider Trust Me Bro has indicated that the Flames and Gaudreau are close to a contract negotiation deal. But according to legitimate NHL source Darren Dreger and other sources, this kind of sounds silly how he said it, but I get it. He wouldn't be surprised if Gaudreau tests the free agent market. So we don't know. We're basically at the we don't know spot with Johnny Gaudreau. But I think that Haley Salvian put out a very interesting. She had a Q&A in The Athletic today. Would recommend it if you're a Flames fan to read it. Do recommend that she talks more about Bono snacks, though. Just saying. But the walkaway point for Johnny Gaudreau in terms of this, I put this out as a poll. If he wants more than $10.5 million. What do you do?
And once you get into the over 10 million and over range, it gets very tricky.
I mean, that's superstar money. Am I right?
And I look at that and I think it's and if you go 10-5 for Gaudreau, what are you giving Tkachuk? So it's very tough. And then if you end up giving 10-5 to Gaudreau and say 9-5 to 10 for Tkachuk, so that's a lot tied up in two players.
Or does Calgary potentially do a twin contract like Chicago did way back when? If they're able to get both players to agree to it.
And I believe Chicago never actually won a cup after signing those two to those deals. And we still haven't seen a team win a cup with a player, if not multiple players, making 10 mil or over. So it's when you get into that, it's tough, and it comes down to, if you're going to do that, you have to be very confident in your ability to build the bottom part of your lineup cheaply, whether that's through players on ELCs or our older players at league minimum to about $1 million.
So yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, where are you at there, Kev? Because the line that Haley Salvian put out was 10-5. If that's the number, are you signing him or are you walking? That's all assuming it's going to be 8 years, because I don't see Johnny signing for less than 8 as a Flame.
I might have to. If he's more than 10-5, I might have to say thanks, but no thanks. And here's why. Part of this though does depend on what Matthew Tkachuk does, and what you're doing with Matthew. But he's not getting any lower than 8. I think we can assume that. We know that. You still got Mangiapane to think about. You still got Shillington to think about, and it's possible that you can make trades. But down the road, and I still think this is something that I don't think Flame fans have talked enough about. If you're giving 10, and let me put it to you this way: if you're giving 10.5 to Johnny Gaudreau, what are you giving Lindholm when his contract is up in 2 years? Because that will be 10, and that is, to me, if I want who. I love Johnny. I had Johnny in my Hart Final 3. Sean can back me up. He looked up the awards earlier. I think he's come a long way. But to me, Elias Lindholm down the road has to be the highest paid player on this team. And that's the guy, like, if I'm going to put my money in, like, just because of the position and the versatility, if 10.5 limits my ability to get Elias Lindholm at a better contract, I'm not sure I can do it. Because you're right, Johnny's going to go for 8 years, and that's in that Elias Lindholm contract negotiation. And I know that's way down the road, but this guy finished second in Selke Trophy voting. He's probably going to win it's a good chance he's going to win a Selke within the next 2 or 3 years, just because he's already building that reputation. And the Selke is a reputation award. And Bergeron will probably retire, so other people can win that award. So,
I mean, it will be named after him at some point.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, this is the way I've always looked at it. I think you sign Johnny. I think you trade Matthew Tkachuk. If you get the right deal, you trade Matthew, and you find the pieces around that. And maybe do you take a bit of a step back next year for the Flames without Matthew? Possibly. But do you get a better team in the long run? Probably. To me, with Matthew, I want to have a long conversation about that shit performance he put up in Edmonton. It's unacceptable. And if he did that in a Canucks jersey, I've said it before and I said it again, if he put up that shit in a Canucks jersey in that playoff, because Twitter would have eviscerated him to no end. The fact that Flames fans are still shrugging and saying we got to sign him, I don't know. I'm not on that train. I'm still wounded by that Matthew performance, especially all of the things that he put up. And I think he needs to I think of anybody between Johnny and Matthew that needs to take the pay cut to stay, it's Matthew, not Johnny. Johnny has been patient. Yeah, but I can't go higher than 10.5, 10.75 I may think about it, but 10.5 has to be my limit. Because it's hard to build a team. If you're giving Matthew 10, let's say you do it. Let's say Matthew, you went and said, yeah, we're going to give Matthew 10. You're going to put Elias in that same category, and you're going to have 3 players with over $10 million. And look at the Toronto Maple Leafs and trying to find a way to get John Tavares out of there right now with all of what they have. It's hard to build a complete team with 3 players over $10 million. So 10.5 is my limit.
I mean, that's fair.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
My hot take, because I'm not a Flames fan and I don't have any strong opinions about the Flames, but yeah, if I were them, I would say neither player, Matthew, Elias, or Elias, I suppose is what he goes by, or Johnny, none of them are at that elite level that they deserve over $10 million a year. They both have shown they've all shown brilliance, but I don't think they are that over the $10 million bar. For me.
Okay, let me throw us down another rabbit hole here. Who gets more in free agency, Gaudreau or Kadri?
Gaudreau is younger. I think again, it also comes down to term too, because
younger, less suspension history, probably more dynamic. Like, yeah, I'd go Johnny. Like, Gaudreau is going to be a wanted free agent this offseason. There's no doubt about that. But Johnny's going to make more.
I think Johnny's going to get 10 no matter what. I think he'll get 10 in the open market. And
there
I
are
think
currently 14 players making $10 million have a $10 million or more cap hit.
on the other side of this though too is a Canadian market. I do think you got to pay a little bit more with taxes and all of that. That's part of it, right? And
taxes and dollar exchange, yeah.
And Chris, you're driving, what gas prices, you're driving across BC.
I'm definitely aware of it. Thank God my employer pays my gas.
Yeah. But,
just for example, right now here in Revelstoke, it's $2.25 a liter.
Oh.
Yeah. But I know when we're talking about a guy that's about to make $10 million a year, the gas prices probably don't affect that. But I think these are things that have to be. Johnny and his family's having a baby. He's in a new stage of his life. There's a lot of things for him to think about, and that's why.
How is he going to afford the diapers? Think about the family. He needs the payday.
Yeah, but that's. I think I think Gaudreau's gonna get 10. I really do.
I think he will as well.
Yeah, on the open market, yeah, I agree. Like, there will be teams that are going to be willing to pay for a top-end free agent of his ilk. I'm not sure I see Treliving paying over $10 million for a player.
I could see him doing it. And I think Daryl's in his ear. And they've got, 2 more years to get 2 more years on that contract?
Oh, the Treliving Sutter tandem contract. Yeah, I believe it's 2 years left on that deal. So yeah, if the Flames are essentially in win now mode. So if you can find a way to win in the next 2-3 years, 4 years, it's however long you sign Gaudreau is worth it. However much it is worth it, but you have to find a way to build around it and build depth.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's no first round pick this year. You're good. And so draft.
They currently only have 3 picks for this upcoming draft.
What did
they
Dan
don't have a 3rd or a 5th in the next draft either? So
yeah, what did Dan say? You might as well not show up to the draft. So just trade those 3 and see you later. So yeah, the Flames have a lot of decisions to make, even around Gaudreau, Tkachuk. You've still got Mangiapane. Showington. You got lots of decisions there. Calle Yarncroke. There's a lot of things to decide in Calgary. But yeah, for sure. Let's hop to the coaching carousel here. By the way, that's our poll question, so you can vote on that at Shifts and Pucks. Let's start with Philadelphia last week. I think Twitter was aghast by this decision that John Tortorella has joined the Philadelphia Flyers.
If there's not a more natural pairing for a team, a team reputation and a coach reputation, I'm not sure if there is one.
Yeah, it does seem like a natural fit.
My worry is more so whether he meshes with their current roster, whether that roster wants to play the Torts way.
there's a lot of I think the Flyers are a talented team that just doesn't feel like they have a lot of cohesiveness. There's just something missing there. They aren't on the same page. Like, I think a lot of people really like Travis Sanheim. Again, Ryan Ellis was injured most of last year. I think that was a big loss. Carter Hart, I think people are still high on him as a goaltender. You still got Kevin Hayes, who had an emotionally difficult year. Cam Atkinson, he's a big Torts fan. I think there's some talent in Philadelphia. They just don't seem to be playing together, and I think Torts can bring that there. I don't think it's that bad of a hire. I understand people's concern, but there's talent in Philadelphia. There really is. I really think that this team is a lot better than they've shown in terms of talent. They're not cohesive.
And yeah, that's more so what I was trying to get at. Is like, I'm just not sure if they're going to want to play a Tort style way. Like, they seem to be more I kind of see a lot of similarities in when Torts first came to Vancouver, and people wondered whether that roster is going to mesh with Torts. I have the same sort of questions in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they're a little bit better prepared for that than the Canucks were. And I still think I think Philly's going to be active this offseason. They currently only have just over $5 million in cap space, but I do see them moving out one or two big contracts to try and rejig things. They tried to rejig that whole defense. It didn't work. That Ristolainen contract's very interesting. Couturier wasn't healthy last year. Ellis wasn't healthy. Both of those guys are 20. Couturier's 29. Ellis is 31. And they're both signed long term. That's that just is crazy about Philly. They have 30-year-old Kevin Hayes signed for another 4 years. They have 27-year-old Rasmus Ristolainen signed for another 5. They have 31-year-old Ryan Ellis signed for another 5. 29-year-old Sean Couturier signed for another. He starts an 8-year deal this upcoming season. And It's just, I don't know if they have it. They've got Farabee and Konechny, who are both young, more on the younger side, but are they? Can they take another step? Provorov hasn't really turned out to be the defenseman that we thought he would be, but I'm expecting more fireworks out of Philly this offseason.
Yeah,
they're looking to rebound quick. They're looking to and find a way back into the playoffs and be competitive right away. And that's why they hired Torts. And I think they are also going to be looking to move on players who they don't think are going to be Torts players.
That also happens when you have a corporation own your team. Because I will remind everyone, Comcast owns the Flyers.
Yeah. And they're not interested in rebuilding. Yeah, and they also need Cam York and Bobby Brink to take a step as well. A couple of their prospects to take another step there as well. So, but I think Torts will bring a standard there that hasn't been there. And there's talent in Philly. It's aging and it's not cohesive. There's a lot of work to do in Philly. That's one of the quieter off-season stories to watch is Philadelphia for me, for sure. Dallas, Pete DeBoer is there. I think he's got an interesting team coming up with a ton of prospects. I think you've got Jake Ottinger, who had a great series against Calgary. There's a lot of good there. Depends. The Vegas reviews weren't great with DeBoer, but I think that's more of that's interesting in and of itself. I don't think DeBoer is a bad coach. I think
got put in a really tough position where Vegas just kept they kept changing the roster, kept changing the locker room, and it's tough to coach when you don't know who you got, and then there's injuries. I think Vegas throwing DeBoer under the bus was the wrong move.
Although I will say that they kind of had to choose in between Lehner and DeBoer, and clearly they felt Lehner was more valuable to them in the future. Because it seemed like there was definitely a big rift between those two.
Yeah.
Well, is Lehner even going to be healthy enough to be a starting goaltender next year?
I mean, that's still a question mark, but clearly what the point I'm trying to illustrate, though, is clearly Vegas chose one over the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a good hire for Dallas. There's a lot of talent there. They got some decisions to make there as well.
Jason Robertson needs a new deal. What do they do with John Klingberg?
Yep.
Well, they'll sign Ottinger. It's just for how much and how long.
Yeah.
It's just fill in your number here and sign.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah.
After that round that he played, I think he earned his next contract.
Yeah.
Well, he's shown it. I think it's just like, again, how much and how long is the question for Ottinger. Does he sign like a Thatcher Demko deal, or does he sign something a little bit shorter term?
Yeah.
Because he played 48 games, 914 save percentage, and then he showed what he could do in the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if he signs a Demko-esque deal this offseason, because what that was
5x5, something like that.
Yes. He might even sign longer term because he's younger.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, I think DeBoer in Dallas is a pretty good fit. I think I can see some success there for both the coach feeling like he belongs there, as well as the team feeling that they can play well for him. I think it's overall a pretty good fit. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how Dallas plays under him.
Yeah, the other decisions, I agree with you. I think the other decision is what you do with Ben and Sagan. What you do, whether it's trade, buyout, keep them, that's some other decisions you have to make. But there's a lot of talent in Dallas. They are a team. I think they're a team on the rise. They've drafted really well. And I think the board will do well there. This one was not a surprise. Jay Woodcroft in Edmonton. I don't think anyone was too surprised about that got done. Probably took a little longer than people wanted it to, but I think maybe what happened was a la Jay Woodcroft waiting at the bench to shake Daryl Sutter's hand. He was just outside Ken Holland's office waiting to get the contract. It's like, hi.
I have a pen. I'm ready to sign.
Ready to sign. Just got here. Yeah. But that's not a surprise, really, I don't think.
Well, yeah. Just going back to Dallas, I think what's interesting is that the Sagan contract is buyoutable, but the Ben contract isn't.
Don't do what Minnesota did.
The Ben contract, they literally save $2/3 of $1 million for 3 years, and then they've got the negative $1/3 of $1 million for 3 years. So there's not really much of a benefit to do that, while they do get significant cap relief for a couple years if they buy out Sagan. But then they do also end up with it's looking like 5 years of just over $850K on the cap for a Sagan buyout.
And if memory serves, and I don't pay super close attention to Dallas, but I would say that Ben is being the more reliable and hasn't really dropped off out of the two of them, whereas I feel like Sagan kind of has dropped off from what he's worth.
Sagan struggled. They both have struggled with injuries, but Sagan more so.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
not like they both didn't have bad seasons either. Yeah. They both Sagan still had 24 goals, and Ben he put up 46 points. So they were both in the 40-point range. Like, they're definitely not worth those contracts, but when you look at the buyout options there, Sagan's maybe a possibility, Ben's not.
Yeah. But you still have to make decisions,
Yeah.
But
and to get back to Kevin's point about Woodcroft, it was going to happen. You knew it was going to happen. It was just a matter of time. And I'm not sure if you can blame Holland or if you can blame Woodcroft, or if they're both equally as guilty to make sure that they both got something that they wanted. But it was going to happen. And
it was how much and how long, just like the Jake Ottinger soon to be contract.
And like, don't get me wrong, Woodcroft earned his contract. I just don't think to the extent that Ottinger has earned his.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. I imagine Ken is very busy right now with there's a lot of decisions to make at Edmonton, a lot of things going on there. So
yep.
And I thought that Woodcroft wasn't a priority, but you got a lot of things going on at Edmonton. What is surprising to many is what the heck is going on in Florida. It looks like it's going to be Andrew Burnett, but they were interviewing other people, including Paul Maurice, and Barry Trotz's name came in there. Other names came in there. The idea was that Andrew Burnett, who was nominated for a Jack Adams Award, would be the assistant coach, and they would bring someone else in.
And again, I'm not trying to ride 32 Thoughts coattails, but I believe they said something along the lines that they're looking at some sort of international notable name to potentially bring in.
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out in Florida for sure.
This really feels like it's just more due diligence than anything else. Just making sure that they don't just say, "Oh, well, yeah, you did well. You get the job," which I think is fair. But
it's I guess the optics is where Florida's kind of misstepping with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks silly, but I mean, the Flames did their due diligence with Jeff Ward back at that time too. They were interviewing other people. I believe that was what Benning and Alvin were trying to do their due diligence with Bruce Boudreau. It just looks odd when you see a President's Trophy guy that came in and did the job. But they got swept by Tampa Bay. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they at least look at other options. I mean, I think it's going to be Brunette, but I'm trying to look up as well while I'm talking here the name, because he is actually, listening to 32.
Yuka Yalonen.
There's another one that starts with an R too. There's a couple of them I think that are on the radar right now. I mean, I believe he was connected.
The only assistant coach that was retained was Tuomo Ruutu.
Yeah, no, but in terms of European coaches, there's a couple I think that are on NHL radars, and that's one of them who you just mentioned. And I think there's
Romberg.
Yes, that's the other one. Yeah.
Like, he says starts with R. I'm like, oh, he's Swedish, and his name is Rikard Romberg, because he's been on the Swedish national team coach for years.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it looks silly in Florida, but I do think it's due diligence as well. So, and they have an interesting offseason ahead of them as well. By the way,
feel unheard of. Sorry, Kevin, didn't mean to cut you off there. Might feel unheard of, but really, like I get with how well Florida did in the regular season, it seems shocking. But with how underwhelming their playoffs were, like they barely got by Washington, and then they got absolutely annihilated by Tampa.
In
like
two straight
it
years.
Feels a lot like Tampa's season where they got swept by Columbus, sort of deal. Like I'm getting a lot of similar vibes. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, and I don't think it's really crazy to think that Brunette might be an assistant next year. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out. It'll definitely be interesting.
Well, he is still on an assistant coach's contract, too. So,
yeah, he was only an interim. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's an interesting situation in Florida, and there's been all this talk about regurgitating veteran coaches, and we need some new, fresh blood. I understand that, but sometimes you need experience to get you over that hump.
Which is probably why they hired Quenneville in the first place.
Yep. But there's still 5 positions still open. So, and I mean, Chicago, the name Ryan Huska was connected. That Kevin Weeks deleted that tweet. There's Detroit. There's Winnipeg, and that. So still lots to decide there. So the off season, it's coming. I think I feel like this is the Avengers Endgame movie preview. We're all standing in line, or a Star Wars preview. We're waiting for this movie to start. And
did we talk about Cassidy to Vegas last week, or was that after?
No. So I'm gonna have I don't think that's a good hire. I don't think that is. I agree with you. I think they should have stuck with the Boer. I think Vegas is a mess. I really do. I think that this is a team with a lot of talent that there's no cohesion. They don't have that identity anymore. I don't particularly think that they're super strong in any particular area. I think they got old really fast. I think they got slow really fast. Yeah, and I don't think Bruce Cassidy is necessarily the answer to their problems.
Yeah, they went from the Golden Rejects to the aging Golden Stars.
Yeah. It's like the old seniors tour that's going to play bingo and gambling on their last tour now.
At least they're not sponsored by the Saudi.
Yeah, it's not the Live tournament. Yeah.
I mean, there's probably a lot of gambling things you could say on both sides there, but yeah.
When you look at their blue line, they've got 32-year-old Pietrangelo, 34-year-old Alec Martinez, 31-year-old Braden McNabb, and then you've got 26-year-old Shea Theodore and 25-year-old Zach Whitecloud. But when you got 3 guys over 30 who are very key parts of your defense, like I'm not sure how. And Martinez and McNabb specifically weren't necessarily lauded for their skating. Pietrangelo has always been lauded as a very smooth, good skater. I think he still is, but those other two definitely have fallen off, especially Martinez, who has struggled injury-wise there. And then, you've got Mark Stone, Pacioretty, who aren't as fleet as foot anymore as they used to be. They got slow quick. What they have what they do with Riley Smith will be really interesting. He is he's been a very good player for them, but he's 31. But who replaces him? I mean, they just acquired Shea Weber's dead carcass.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that trade for Dadonov. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm laughing that Montreal was on Dadonov's trade list, but Anaheim wasn't.
Yeah, kind of ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Vegas, and again, the organization hasn't shown any loyalty to or any care to their players, and I think that this is a very cautionary tale about putting your chips in, and just something is not.
Well, I think it's more about just knowing when your window is not there anymore. They had a good run, but then they went after Mark Stone and Pacioretty, and they signed players to long-term deals. Like Mark Stone's 30, and he's still got 5, and he's got 5 years left on that deal. Wheelan Karlsson's 29 with 5 years left. Pietrangelo 32 with 5 years left. Like it's
going to be a multi-season. Let's fix these mistakes and get rid of these long-term contracts that are going to weigh us down for a decade.
Yeah, getting and taking. Yes, Gary, it is a loophole. Shea Weber for the LTIR. If Gary allows it, it's a smart move. I still think it's stupid and it shouldn't be allowed. And still, but maybe I'm just a bitter Canucks fan who's still pissed off that the Canucks are the only team that gets dinged by this cap recapture bullshit. But what they do with Riley Smith is going to be interesting. Whether or not they decide to go big game hunting again, because I think they've got they have no cap space. The reason they went out and got the 7.8 and change contract of is to open up the cap space, but they still have to move players out.
Like with Weber's contract, that means that they can now dress Eichel without having to like overly worry about the math, right?
Yes and no. It was a good player, a good defenseman for them. Nick Hague, who got injured at the end of the season, he needs a new deal. Brett Howden needs a new deal. Riley Smith needs a new deal. Keegan Colasar needs a new deal. Nick Waugh needs a new deal. That's someone who's probably in for a decent chunk, a decent raise there. When you look at that, there's definitely one or two pieces moving out, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're big game hunting this offseason. I know Kevin, throughout this whole season, Kevin's like, Vegas is gonna make a big move. Vegas is gonna make a big move, and I was surprised with the Eichel move. I didn't think they put themselves in that shitty position, but they did, and it bit them in the ass. But this offseason, when there's a lot more, you can pat yourself on the back for that one, Kev.
Why did you get Jack Eichel? Give him anything you can for Jack Eichel.
It's not Jack Eichel's fault that but all that. But you look at all that. I feel for him, actually. I do too. But again, off season, there's more cap flexibility until you have to dress a full roster in October. I'm on the train of thought that I think Vegas will be big game hunting this offseason.
Yeah. I don't think that's what they should be doing, but I agree with you. That's what they will be doing.
Exactly. And I think Philly's
agreed.
The exact same thing.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be big game hunting, but they will be.
Yeah. All right. The one other thing I do think
before we go on, bold hot take prediction: PK Subban to Vegas.
We'll leave that for another week as far as discussion.
I could see it though. The one other thing we do want to talk about here is the Hockey Canada inquiry around the 2018 sexual assault allegations. Not an easy topic, but they faced they had the federal government inquiry yesterday. It's still going to be continuing, but Tom Rennie, who's outgoing president of Hockey Canada, Scott Smith, incoming president, faced questions, and it looked really bad. Like it just was a gong show. There's no other way to put this but a gong show. There's a dispute of how many players actually have testified or were called into the investigation, but what we do know is not everyone compiled or would. And then they were asked questions about how you do how if that's going to be a requirement going forward. It just was this was poorly handled. That's the first thing. When all four parties are in agreement with how you mishandled this situation, with parties with such a diversity that these have for the most part, including the chairman, Heidi Fry, says, I'm really surprised that you came unprepared with some of the questions that we were about to ask you. That should be a red flag for everyone affiliated with Hockey Canada, and this should be a concern. And this was not a good look for Hockey Canada. They've got a lot of things to be thinking about. And this is not going to go away. It's in kudos to the people other than the Rick Westheads and the Katie Strings that were covering this. Ian McIntyre was covering this. Others were covering this as well. Ken Campbell, formerly of the Hockey News, he's gone rogue. I mean, he's gone Substack, and he's not holding anything back, but this was not a good look for Hockey Canada. This is something I think you do need to pay attention and you have to watch. And again, to go back to what we were talking about hockey is for everyone. And when you see this from Hockey Canada and you've got a kid coming up through the ranks, you have some serious questions to be asking.
I am a firm believer that hockey and sport brings more good than bad. But when you have this, it's hard to have that argument, especially when there's the way they handled it, not right. And then there needs to be drastic changes into how we handle this. Yeah. I love this sport. I love the joy it brings to people. But we need to take a hard look at how we're handling these things. And it's in all society, unfortunately. But if we look at how we can handle things in hockey, we need to be better.
Mm-hmm. And I realize it's not an apples to apples comparison, but after what we saw, what went down with the Chicago Blackhawks situation, Hockey Canada should have been better prepared for something like this.
Well, unfortunately, I believe this happened before all that. This happened before all that came out.
Sure. But
they should have been better prepared.
Knew that this lawsuit was coming, they should have been better prepared for the questions and the testimony and all of that.
But even then, the fact that they didn't, the big thing for me is that they didn't make it mandatory for all the players on that team to take part in that investigation. Even if you weren't even at that golf tournament. You should have been it should have been mandatory to take part in that investigation. We don't want this in our sport, our culture, our society at all. We need to be better.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they just went and settled without doing it their own thoroughness on this, it just is a bad look. Not a good look for Hockey Canada. And I'm with you. I love Hockey Canada. I love hockey. We see good things, but this is stuff it just makes it hard to be a fan for many people.
It's an embarrassment and a black mark on their history for sure.
Yes.
Yep.
We need to be better. And as fans, we need to demand better. And I don't know what that looks like, but there are people. I feel like you have to go from grassroots up with this. You have to demand better from your minor hockey associations. You need to demand better from your local hockey association. You need to demand better from your provincial hockey association, your state hockey association, and you need to demand better from your national hockey association. So wherever you are in that step, you need to demand better.
Yep. Because
hockey is for everyone, and we now need to show it. It doesn't matter. And it's the same thing as, and it's not even just hockey. Sport is it for everyone. Life is for everyone. We need to demand better. And kids make mistakes, but they need to be held accountable for them. The other big thing is they don't know. They don't know who did it. Unfortunately, they can't. But we maybe it's too far gone or whatever, but We need to demand better. And everyone who could have potentially been involved needs to answer. And they know what they did. The players that were involved know what they did. And they need, if one of them stepped forward and said, I was part of this, I made a mistake, and pulled themselves out and said, I need to be better, it would be huge. It would be huge because it shows growth, and it shows that even though you make mistakes, you learn from them.
And it shows that the bro code isn't as this impenetrable force that apparently in the hockey culture it is.
No one is perfect. We all make mistakes. We need to learn from them. And these are bad mistakes, and we definitely need to learn from them. So this is my plea to everyone. Please demand better from your sporting association, whether it's hockey or anything like that. Demand better and be better. And even if you make mistakes, take a step back. Even if they're little mistakes or whatever, this is a big mistake, and it needs to be handled better and with more ferocity. But please just make sure that we as a society, as a sport, as a group can learn and get better so that hockey is for everyone.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think there's a lot more to have on this conversation here too. And maybe we'll take some time in the summer here to get into it and just maybe specifically have a chat about this, because I think it is an important topic. We'll leave it here for now, but maybe, we'll leave it here. I'm going to save a couple of the things that I have to say on this later, but we'll leave it here. Chris, I think poor Chris's laptop is dying on us as we speak, or batteries charging out. And so you can follow him at SCHNEIDZ. Sean, how do we follow you?
I am BeardyCanucks03 on Twitter.
Devin Gordhouse09. Get your ass back here. Tyler TNOBLE. YouTube.
Get your ass back here.
Yep. KVOLE, Shifts and Pucks, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as in Area 51 Sports Network. We're back next week, depending on how this goes. Maybe Sunday, maybe Monday. Keep an eye out. We'll have our news packs and clips, and we're going through it. We'll look out for some off-season clips. I'm digging through them now, trying to I think we've done a bunch, and I think we have to record a bunch more. But we'll figure that out. We got lots of stuff anyway, and buy our stuff, like our stuff. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.